Can any farmer connect with Farmizen? And if he can, what are the kind of certifications he needs to have?
We work only with farmers who don't use any chemicals. As a farmer, you should always see how you can do value addition.
What's the basic size of a mini rental farm?
Intermediaries sometimes are not so truthful or honest about it.
What are the basic quality checks that you do?
There is always a lot of risk with farming. Do things a little differently. How can I create a brand for my farm? That farmers should think of themselves as entrepreneurs. If you have seen, like, sometimes capsicum farmers, one season they have made 7 lakhs from like 1 acre and this and that. So that will also not be here. So it is good income every month, almost guaranteed, which you are getting, but high effort.
It's like a salary.
Yes. And it's a high effort good. So it's not suitable for all farmers, but for farmers whose land is near the city, for them it's a nice, interesting model.
So if a family has 3 or 4 members working in the farm, so can they easily manage the complete 1 or 2 acres farm?
Yes, absolutely.
Out of the 3,999,
Yeah.
so half goes to the farmer, half goes to farmer. So Farmizen controls
Seeds, saplings, all the organic inputs, technology, customer service, marketing. So if you think of it, one way to think of it is like this model is like the Uber or Ola of farming, but Uber and Ola is giving you petrol also. It's kind of like that. Uber or Ola is taking a commission for sending the customers, for doing customer service, etc. But it's also giving you the petrol as well. It's kind of like that.
what are the basic quality checks that you do with the farmer?
See, basically what we do is we look at their soil test report, we look at their water test report before onboarding them into this, right? And after that, of course, most of the farmers who kind of sign up with this program, they would have grown 2-3 crops before. They would have not grown other things, right? So that is one. But because we have an app, that app actually gives them instructions. Okay, this is cucumber, you have never grown cucumber, you need to stake it. You know, the sapling is now 1 month old, you need to start putting in stakes, for example. So it gives them those instructions, so that's taken care of. But there is a training which is required, even for example, from a harvesting perspective. Because if you have not grown that crop before, you might not know several things. If suddenly you are growing leek, you don't, as a farmer, you are not eating leek. You don't know, should I harvest the leek now or let it be there so that it's thicker? You don't know whether I should be doing this multi-cut or should I just cut off the entire thing. For example, any sort of multi-cut sort of things, right? That also farmers need to know. Then if a consumer has come in and planted some of his, we call it custom crops, right? So for example, let's say the consumer has come in and put in butternut squash. Now butternut squash is a very costly vegetable. It sells in the market for upwards of 800 to 900 rupees per kg, right? It actually grows very easily in Bangalore. In fact, the customer from Northeast that I was mentioning, she is growing butternut squash at her farm, mini farm, easily. So, but the farmer might not know exactly how to take care of it and things like that. So at that point of time, there is some interaction required with the customer, where the customer might say, you know what, this is what you should be doing, or we might help there as well. So it's a very intense job, but it gives you like a guaranteed income.
Is there any farmer who has more than 1 acre and is connected with you?
Yeah. So actually what we did was, there are several, in fact the Swayam Krishi farm also I think is a 3 acre farm, which is, their farm is about 3 acre. So as I said, we have various models, right? There are all the fruit farmers who sell stuff on us. They are larger farmers typically. They have 10 acres, 20 acres, etc. Let's say an apple orchard in Himachal who's selling their apples on us. They would be like a 40 acre farm and so on. So there is a full variety of people in terms of their farm sizes, etc. Back to Basics, which sells their produce on us, they do farming in 500 acres, right? And they actually export most of their produce abroad. Only a very small percentage they sell here. So there are various different things. What we have seen is, for the mini farm model, because it is so intensive, you should not do it more than 3-4 acres. After that, it will become too much of effort for you.
No, only land size that we can manage is what
Yes. And the other advice that I have for people who are, so there are, for example, there are several companies also which have got inspired by Farmizen. Across India, they have started off this mini farm sort of a model, right? There are people in Gurgaon, there are people in Chennai, there are people in Pune, etc., who have started all of these. So one thing that I've seen is that when farmers do this, they should obviously put in all of this effort, but at the same time, they should also see how to make the farm visit enjoyable for the consumer, right? So, for example, they should start thinking, okay, should I put a farm cafe there sometime, right? So that if the consumers are coming, maybe they can have some nice ragi mudde and some saru they can have, So all of those they should think, so that because basically what you are giving is you are not selling vegetables anymore. You are selling an experience. So at that point of time, consumers then stick around with you and things like that, right? And they develop a nice community with you, a nice relationship with you. So there is a angle of a hospitality business that you are doing and farming. So it's a mix. So you have to go beyond I'm just growing stuff. I don't want to talk to anybody. So that those sort of farmers will not succeed with this model.
Because it becomes boring in over time.
Yes.
So what's the basic size of a mini rental farm, sir? Basic, like
600 square feet. 600 square feet, which is 20
600 or 25 into 25?
No, so 600 square feet, which is 20 feet by 30 feet.
20 into 30.
20 feet by 30 feet. It is separated out into 12 raised beds. Okay. And basically 12 raised beds, as in there are 6 raised beds and then half of it. Like that. And then we let consumers choose crops for each of those beds through the app. Like they can say, let me put methi here, let me put palak here, let me put radish here. Now, this model works especially well in Bangalore because our agroclimatic zone that we have lets us grow a very wide variety of things, right? And across the year. But in more harsher climates, even in India, for example, there are so many different agroclimatic zones. Some places the summer is too hot, where many things won't grow and things like that. So there, this model, you might not be able to do it so well with so many support. So, but places like Bangalore, etc., are very suitable for something like this.
So basically, when we divide 1 acre by 600 square feet, we'll approximately have 65 to 70 mini rental farms.
But typically, you will end up with about 50 because you need to have pathways between the plots. Consumers should be able to access things. We also recommend keeping in every acre, keeping 10% of the size as what we call a common area. Okay. What is a common area? See, in farming, we know that things go wrong. Sometimes suddenly yield will drop, some pest attacks will come, etc. Even inside a 1 acre farm, we have seen that, you know what? Things are all fine this side of the farm. This side of the farm, things are going wrong. It's very possible because the soil quality could be a little different, right? Water slope could be a little different. Suddenly there is a lot of rain and there is flooding on this side of the farm. So just like there is a crop insurance scheme, you need to have some sort of an insurance scheme. So the common area that we say is like a group insurance scheme, which means that in the common area, you should grow a lot of different type of crops so that even if your crops fail from your own plot, at least you'll have a lot of vegetables you'll get from the common pool. So that was one learning that we have. In our first farm, we did not have the common area. But then later on, we realized that it's important to set aside some area because some things will go wrong. And at that point of time, people want to finally get 80-90% of their vegetable requirements from here. So if they don't have that, then they'll be upset. So always create a small common area also. And we also recommend trying to do as many events at the farm. See, there are various flavors of this which get practiced in different parts of the country. For example, Rujuta Devekar, who's a very famous nutritionist. She used to be Karishma Kapoor's nutritionist. You'll see on Instagram, she has millions of followers, etc. She does this thing called the Sonave project, okay, which is a community farming project. This model is basically a community farming model, right? So what she does, for example, is she has a slightly different way of doing it. She says that, you sign up for X amount of months and then we will not do any home deliveries, etc. But every month on the 3rd Sunday, etc., everybody can come to the farm. There will be one nutrition talk by nutritionists from my team. You can harvest stuff from the field and take your share, right? And we will also invite some nearby farmers over there to sell their produce also, right? So the whole crux of this is to sell the experience rather than just vegetables. And getting people, see, for example, if you go to any restaurant today, or if you go to watch a movie, you will spend 2,000 rupees probably just on the popcorn and cola, right?
Easily.
So when you are spending 3,999 and you're going there for an experience, then it is absolutely worth it. But if you are calculating 3999, but vegetables, how much can I spend? You'll probably see that usually vegetables you are probably spending 2000 rupees per month, 2500 if you are buying conventional. And you typically don't eat that many vegetables. People who sign up for mini farms end up doubling their vegetable consumption because they get so much of produce, right? So this basically makes sense for people who are not necessarily just calculating, oh, how much is my brinjal, how much is it, but who are saying, oh, this is a great experience that I'm getting. I'm able to go and visit the farm, get these microbes into my body. I got my dog. And I remember there was one mini farm subscriber in the early days of Farmizen. She had rented out two mini farms, and one she was focusing on growing carrots, only carrots, one for beans. And she used to get her dogs along to the farm every time. She used to come every weekend, and mostly for her dogs, actually. That why should my dogs eat chemically grown food? So I think those are all opportunities. If you see that during COVID, a lot of people have gone, and pet ownership in India has been increasing very substantially, right? A lot of younger people are nowadays also keeping pets, etc. When you have pets and you are staying in an apartment, you need to take that pet out also somewhere which is green, right? See, pets, for example, most dogs, they do so much of self-treatment. They have some problem, they will go smell a particular plant and eat it. Nobody has taught them. They know it. It's their genetic memory. Now, if you are not taking them to places which are green, you are not letting them do self-treatment. You are then relying completely on your vet, who's giving you just some medicine, right? So if you keep a dog, it's actually important for you to take them to green places where there is a diversity of various weeds and various plants, so that the dog can go in and pick and choose and eat that, right? If we had really good parks in Bangalore where dogs were allowed, then that is the role it would have played. But where are they? So I think even for pet owners also, it's a very interesting thing to participate in.
Can any farmer connect with Farmizen? And if he can, what are the kind of certifications he needs to have?
So basically the way it works is you can go to www.farmizen.com. There's a partner section. You can fill up the form there, right? Where we'll ask for the farm location, what do you grow and things like that. Now, we work only with farmers who don't use any chemicals. And when I say any chemicals, I want to be very specific. It's not just about pesticides. If you use urea, sorry, we won't be able to work with you, right? So no chemicals should be used. And we don't insist on certification as such. Certification we see, so every farmer basically gets a trust score, okay? And that trust score is based on a bunch of questions that we ask them. If we are able to visit his farm and we are able to inspect things, then there is an additional weightage given to that. If he is coming through a reference of some other organic farmer, right, who has visited his farm, that gets an additional score. So that's how we kind of try to decide. We don't insist on certification because India, if there are, let's say, 10 farmers who are certified organic, there are at least 5,000 farmers for those 10 farmers who are not certified but who are actually organic, right? They don't use any chemicals, etc. They either don't know how to get that certification, or they don't believe in the certification thing, or they can't afford the certification prices and all of the mechanisms and paperwork and so on. So we actually don't believe that certification is useful at all because, see, there are two types of people, right? People who will tell you frankly what's going on and people who will going to hide something. In our experience, what we have seen is when you talk to farmers, they're usually very, very upfront about what they have used. And I can say that with a lot of confidence because during COVID, in the initial days when farmers were facing a lot of trouble selling their produce and farmers started selling directly to consumers, etc., many consumers would put us in touch with farmers who are in distress and who wanted to sell different things. And most of them were chemical farmers, right? Because that's the majority. So when we would talk to them, we were like, yeah, I need to sell 5 tons of watermelon. I'm stuck with it. Can you guys help sell? We would tell them. Then we would ask them, okay, how have you grown it? We sell only organic. They would actually, even though they were in such a distress situation, they would all tell that I have used this last season. I have used this. So which in general we have seen. I don't know what is the reason for that. But farmers usually tell if they have used something. Where the unfortunate thing happens is usually, in many cases, intermediaries sometimes are not so truthful or honest about what. So we try to get mostly directly from farmers as much as possible, right? So in short, certification is not mandatory. If it is certified, it will be listed as certified organic when you sell it on the platform. Otherwise, it might be listed as naturally grown using ZBNF, grown using natural farming, etc. So it's listed accordingly. It is listed as organic only if it is certified organic. But we only list produce that there is no chemicals have been used in it.
So suppose I have used this conventional method of farming till last year, and from last
So at least 1 year gap is what is required.
minimum of 1 year is what.
Yes.
If you can tell the younger people or the youth of today to move into farming or to explore farming, what would your message be?
Yeah, so I'll give you a very frank opinion. I think right now, because the farming situation, there is so much of risk associated with it, because there are so many things which are not under your control. One of the major risks is actually climate risk, right? For example, in general, in the rainy season itself, right, the rains are like the volume is varying a lot, but the period during which it rains has become shorter. So you might get more water, but suddenly there is a lot more rain. The winters have also actually become shorter in general. So the climates are changing a lot, and because of that, there is always a lot of risk with farming, right? So I think youth should see it as they should also, just like everything else in the finance world, you need to diversify. Diversification is the main way to handle risk, right? So you should be like, okay, for example, if I am a software engineer, start off by going back to your village over the weekends, like how you are doing, right? That is how you should do it. Take baby steps. Don't jump into it till you have some level of a safety net, because it is risky. And there will be sometimes you might end up losing money. So that is one part. Second part is that you need to look at it from very first principles thinking. You need to look at it, which means that you need to rethink right from what crop should I grow, because although climate is a problem, but it can also be an opportunity. For example, nowadays a lot of winter lychees are grown in Wayanad. So because of climate changes, what's happening is that some crops which you could not grow there, you can now grow there. Sometimes mangoes are coming in earlier in the season in certain belts. So first is you should look at it from that perspective and don't get caught up only on things that grow well in your area. At the same time, you have to have a lot of patience as well. So my suggestion is that you should always think of, first getting some safety and then doing it. So take baby steps and do it gradually. And wherever possible, diversify. Diversify means your income stream should be diversified, right? You should have put in some money in some stocks, etc. If you can, while doing farming, let's say you are full-time into farming, but you are trained for marketing, can you keep that? Can you keep freelancing along with that? Because then you will not be under tension when things go up and down, right? So that's the second thing. Third is that you should be ready to do things a little differently from how things happen right now. The clearest example of that is actually value addition. If you go to a Starbucks and you are drinking a 350 rupees cup of coffee, the farm produce on it, the coffee might be worth only 5 rupees, the milk is worth only 4 rupees. But the value addition that Starbucks has done by creating their own brand, by giving you a nice place to sit, by having Wi-Fi, that is why they are able to get so much of the money. So as a farmer, you should always see how you can do value addition, because then you can get much more realization from the money is more in the value addition than in just the production of the commodity. So although farmers by nature, they just love producing, they might not like value addition so much, but by doing value addition, they can earn a lot more and they can de-risk a lot more as well. And the second important thing that young people getting back into farming should think of is that how can I create a brand for my farm?
True.
See, most farms today, they don't even have a name. Like many farmers come to us and say, oh, we want to sell. First question, okay, what's the name of your farm? No, we don't have a name, right? It is Manjana's farm or this, that, right? So it's important to create a brand. Why is it important to create a brand? Is because brands are the reason people are willing to pay you more than commodity price, right? See, the same bag that Louis Vuitton produces and they sells for 2 lakh rupees. Yeah. The cost of doing that bag is probably not even 200, 300, 500 rupees, right?
Probably made in Mumbai, Dharavi.
It's because they have created a brand, that's why. Now, especially if you're an organic farmer, you are a minority. You are putting in more effort. You are creating food for which there is a niche demand, but these guys are looking for it. Most cases, you need to get a premium price compared to what is the regular mandi prices, etc. So to get a premium price, you need to build a brand. So, and we also recommend very heavily that irrespective of whether you sell on platforms like Farmizen, you should also try to sell directly to some customers at least. Because only when you sell to customers can you get feedback if you do not sell to yourself to some customers, it doesn't matter even if it's 10 people, you will know that people will say, you know what, this season's bhindis are much better. So you'll know, oh, this seed actually that I bought this season is better, I should use that. That feedback loop is important. And this all boils down to value addition, branding, all of this basically boils down to that farmers should think of themselves as entrepreneurs. So don't think of yourself as a farmer and restrict yourself. Think of yourself as an agripreneur or as a farmer entrepreneur. My job does not end at growing. I will grow and I will sell and I will maximize my profit margin. That's how a businessman thinks, right? A businessman is always thinking that, okay, this is my cost of doing things. This is what I'll do. I'll find the guy who's willing to pay the maximum for this and I'm going to sell to him. I'm going to solve all of the problems required to get my product to that person. But farmers usually are like, my job ends at production, somebody else will sell it. If you take that approach, then it becomes much more difficult to succeed in farming. So you have to think of yourself as an entrepreneur and say, yes, growing is one part of it. If I'm a businessman who's selling shoes and I have my own factory, I am spending some amount of time thinking about, okay, factory, my machines, what is my labor cost, but I'm also thinking of what sort of ads I'll run. How will I get known? Should I do Instagram? Right? Should I sell directly? Should I sell on Amazon? That is a businessman who's thinking of all of those. He's not thinking, I'm a factory owner, I will just produce. So farmers should also not think like that I'm just producing. I'm a businessman. Everything after production is also something that I will try to solve, right? So that's, I think, which is important. And so farmers who take that approach of thinking of themselves as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, their chances of success are much higher versus people who think that, oh, my job is just production.
Right now, at least every farmer would have his son or who's well equipped with the social media stuff and all. So just by creating one small, like you mentioned, a brand name and selling it somewhere, right? Then that becomes a lot more easier for
First
us.
step, go to Google Maps and tag your farm, put a name to that farm, give your phone number there so that people who are trying to look for which farms grow different things using Google Maps, right? They should be able to do that. Second step, there are so many simple website builders. Create a website for your farm.
Now you don't need website builders, you have ChatGPT.
Correct. Correct. Then third is just create an account in Instagram. Many organic farmers in India, they started off by getting 80-90% of their customer sales across India just through Instagram, for example. So I think all of those tools are very important to be used and they can really help.
So now any farmer who is not connected to Farmizen, a general farmer, how can he make money, sir? Like, if you can explain the same things again.
From the organic perspective or
general farming, it could be organic, it could be conventional farming.
See, basically, if you look at all types of farming, it's very difficult for me to think of anything non-organic because we've been doing this organic stuff for quite some time. But the principles still remain the same, which is that you need to focus on your bottom line. And this is a mistake that farmers often make. When you ask a farmer, okay, how much, he will know his top line very well. Like, I have earned 5 lakhs last time, I grew these crops. Very often what we see is that they might have grown 5 crops and let's say they got 5 lakh top line. Okay. But maybe one of those crops gave him a lot more profit and the other crops were loss making. Many farmers don't realize that also, you know. So this is they have to run it like a business. Like if a non-farming business was there, right? Let's say a large business, they would call a McKinsey or some consultant and they would come and analyze and say, this is your profit center, this is your loss center, and so on and so forth, right? But farmers usually focus too much on the top line. They should focus on the bottom line. If from 5 lakhs you are making 1 lakh profit, you might realize that, no, let me not go for 5 lakh. Let me get top line of 2 lakh and get 1.5 lakh profit by reducing my costs elsewhere. Maybe I'll just grow these 2 crops which I'm doing very well in and let me not grow all of that. So I think that is important. See, what happens is a lot of farmers are also very, there is some level of love for farming as well, which is why they have still stuck onto it. Instead of saying, I'm just going to give it to somebody, I'm going to the city and doing it, right? So sometimes they are also not fully rational while they are thinking through it. And the typical thing that we have seen is that people focus a lot on the top line and overall yield. They try to maximize yield because they want to tell their neighbor, oh, you got only 20 tons, I got 30 tons. They get excited by that. I'm saying don't get excited by that. What you should get excited is how much of profits did I make, right? So that conversation and mindset needs to shift a little bit for all farmers, I think. And the same advice that we give to farmers who are associated with Farmizen is also valid for this, which is that create your own brand, go direct to consumer, do value-added products, and think like an entrepreneur, not just as a producer. Those same things are valid for actually across all farmers, I feel. One important thing is that because the world is kind of becoming smaller in the sense that like our food habits are all changing, right? When I was growing up in Calcutta, I had not even heard of mulberry, right? But then after moving to Bangalore, I saw somebody post on saying mulberry is very good, shahtut is very good. Oh, okay, mulberry, oh, it's available here, let's go. So this also creates opportunities, right? Of growing things which are not necessarily growing there. So just like any other thing, if you put in effort and you put in thought and you're thinking critically, okay, this is my environmental conditions. Which parts of the world have these sort of environment conditions as of now after climate change, etc.? What are the crops they grow there? Is it possible to grow some of those? That's also another angle of thinking about it, I think.
Coming back to the farmer thing again. So how can a conventional farmer transition to organic farming, and what are the processes you need to do, and how long will it take?
So this is a very interesting question. Thanks for asking this. See, the thing is that getting into organic farming after leaving chemical farming is like leaving smoking. What is the best way of leaving smoking? Is it cold turkey, where you leave it completely? That's what most of the research shows, that you should just stop it. But while doing that, sometimes it might help if you are reducing your smoking. It makes it easier for you to do the stopping directly. So you should stop doing, unless you stop it completely, it will not help. You can't be like, everything I'm doing organically, but I'm using weedicide. I can't afford to pay all these farming labor for reviewing it, and I'm going to, that will not work, unfortunately. I'm just using weedicide because, see, organic farming, everything is growing in a very fine, balanced, natural system where there are many, many, many factors, many thousands of varieties of microbes, so many different natural cycles. If there is one thing which creates a disbalance, then it will not work. So organic farming is all about balanced biodiversity. It's like an orchestra with hundreds of different instruments getting played. And even one thing is besura, matlab the orchestra will not work, right? So that's the same thing with organic, which is why you cannot do the shift till one is done. Having said that, practically speaking, it might be that in your case, it might be that, okay, I'm going to stop using pesticides first and I'm going to stop using this. In my experience, I've seen that it becomes difficult for it to work like that, in the sense, because things are disbalanced, so you still face a lot of problems. So I would suggest that if possible, just try to cut it. Now, when you're going to cut it, you are definitely going to see some problems initially. So you need to have a little bit of buffer, economic buffer, where you are like, okay, for 1-2 years, I might not make much money from the farm. This is a reality of the challenge around moving towards organic. So you will lose yield. So you have to focus on rebuilding that soil. Years of chemical farming has stripped the soil of all life. You have to get that life back. So your first focus should be, okay, I'm going to get the life back into my soil. Which means that you might, for example, just choose to grow much lower value crops, which are hardier, which are more pest resistant, etc. For example, you might say, I'm going from chemical farming to organic farming. Maybe I'm just going to grow millets for 1 or 2 years. I will cut my costs because it will not require too much of effort, and I will let the land recover. You should do a few things like green manuring, 2 or 3 cycles of green manuring, where you plant a cover crop, you plant something like sun hemp or a mixture of various seeds, and you mow it back into the soil, right? So some of those things you should do. The focus should be in 1 or 2 years, let me get the soil back as much as possible.
Replenish.
During that transition period, choose your crops not based on how much money you will make, but how hardy it will be. So you might even take a crop, that you are not going to make much margins, but it's going to be hardy. So you will be able to deal with the pest attacks that are going to come. Because make no mistake, when the soil organic carbon percentage is low and you have shifted out into organic and all your surrounding farmers are doing chemical farming, you will certainly get pest attacks, right? So what should you do? You have 2 options. One is you use chemicals to get rid of this, then you are back to square one. Second option is you choose more hardier crops at that point of time and know that yes, this is my investment phase into my farm. Because once your soil organic carbon percentage goes to 3% and above, then suddenly magic happens, right? And it's very, very much possible. The other day I was at a farm inside Bangalore, almost outskirts of Bangalore, 5.16% organic carbon.
In Bangalore?
Inside Bangalore, okay? Near this Attibele side, that side.
Okay.
So, shocking. But how is he able to do that? Very simple. I think it was a 3.5 acre farm. And he's able to do that because he makes 25 tons of compost in his farm using all the tree cuttings, prunes, etc. prunings. And he's just putting in 25 tons of compost that he's making. He has been putting it there, you know. So it's certainly possible to get it back. It's not true that, once it's lost, it's going to be very difficult. It is difficult because during that period, you're making the transition, you might not get full yield, etc. But once you get there, then suddenly you start seeing comparable and sometimes even more yields in organic. And this is one big myth that is there, which is that, organic will never be able to produce enough yields. This is really, a lot of this is just misinformation by the chemical lobby, fertilizer lobby. Obviously, right? Why would anybody buy fertilizers, etc. and pesticides if you're saying, no, you can get as much yield through organic methods. Because in organic method, it's the cow and all of this stuff, right? And what you're doing at the farm, you don't have to buy much. So it's certainly possible to grow. And there's Rodale Institute has a long-standing, I think 30-40-year-old study, which actually proves this across multiple different types of crops, that it's absolutely possible. You have to be patient. It is like you have to invest into the soil, get it really healthy, focus on that soil organic carbon percentage, do a soil test every year so that you see that it's increasing or not, see whether the cation exchange capacity of the soil is improving or not, right? See whether the diversity in your farm is increasing. A simple thing could be that you just walk in with a notebook and you are noting down all the varieties of insects and animals and frogs that you're seeing. Are you seeing that increase year over year? Because if that is doing, then you are doing the right thing. If you're doing organic farming and your diversity is going down, then you're not doing organic farming.
Also, some of these insects and other things that come to farm, some of them are actually beneficial to the crops.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in fact, if you see insects, there are vegetarian insects and then there are non-vegetarian insects, right? Vegetarian insects, farmers don't like because they eat the plants. But non-vegetarian insects are your farmers' friends. See, we talk about bees, butterflies, earthworms, ladybugs, these as farmers' friends. But even a spider is also a great friend of farmers, right? Spiders trap many of these insects. Wasps, which has such a painful sting. Parasitic wasps are amazing farmers' friends because they go ahead and they feed many of these wasps feed the caterpillars to their kids, right? So they actually have a lot of benefit. Most non-vegetarian insects are great. But when we see a spider, we remove it from the farm, right? And the problem is that whenever you take any pest control measures, even in organic farming, you have neem oil, you have Dasaparni Kashayam, you have 3G spray, so many different pest repellents are there. The right way of doing organic farming is that even when you are using a neem spray, you should know that there is a harm being caused even by neem spray to the ecosystem in your farm. Because when you are doing that neem spray, it's not only removing the bad insects, but also removing some of the good insects also, right? And the ideal organic farm is where you don't need to even use that neem spray because the good insects are taking care of the bad insects and you have enough perching spot for the birds to come and sit and eat some of those insects away, right? So you have to build that biodiversity as well. And you should not think of organic farming as, okay, instead of chemical pesticides, we are replacing it with just organic pesticides, which are not as harmful. So that is the approach that many organic farmers take, unfortunately. They think, okay, I was using malathion, I was using this, that. Instead of that, I'm using less strong, less harmful pesticides. That is not the correct way of thinking about it. The correct way of thinking about it is that you are basically trying to get natural systems to work in a way where nature takes care of itself. Okay. In fact, one of the things that we tell is that in organic farming, there are some mind shift changes that you need to do. First mind shift change you need to do is that you need to think plant positive rather than pest negative. What is the difference between plant positive and pest negative? Plant positive basically says, Okay, insect coming is basically some sort of a symptom. The problem could be something else. It's coming because there is a lack of some nutrition there, or there is some disbalance in the ecosystem. That's why the insect is coming. And our job as an organic farmer is to strengthen the plant so much that the plants can take care of itself. See, plants actually have a beautiful, they have a lot of defenses. We think humans, we have a lot of defenses. Plants have so many defenses, right from, small oxalate crystals in their leaves so that herbivorous animals don't eat them, to when even there is a small, something gets bitten off, enzymatic pathways get unlocked, which basically go ahead and start producing chemicals where some of the part of the leaf might turn bitter. For example, tomato plants even release volatile organic compounds into the air when the pest attack happens to tell other tomato plants that something is going wrong, change and start producing some metabolites. So it's a very, very active system. It's a very smart system which uses not just like an immune system of its own kind of, but also does cross-species alliances in the sense that it will give out volatile organic compounds which will attract the type of wasps which will kill that insect. It will give out sugars into the soil which will attract the sort of fungus which can produce a chemical which can attack that pathogen. So it's like the plants know how to take care of themselves if you give them that ability. But what are we doing in conventional farming? Conventional farming, we are taking the plant, we are making the soil barren. The first thing I said was that you should think of plant positive versus pest negative. So that's a mindset change. Second thing you should think of is that the plants are in control and your job as an organic farmer is to get everything that the plant needs and get out of the way. See, the visual that always comes to my mind when I think of conventional farming and how plants are grown in that is as if the plant is in a hospital, lying down very weak and whatever it requires, there is one saline drop is being there and it is growing like that. Whereas an organically grown plant is out in the wild, trying to deal with things, is strong, has a lot of muscles, knows how to, there is a pest attack, no problem, I'll fight with it. That's the visual that always comes to my mind, right? So I think people who are looking to pick up organic farming, they should also perhaps think of like that my job is to make sure that the plant has the right environment to fight its own battles. I don't have to fight its battles for itself, right? And I think the third change that farmers need to think of when they are looking of how to transition to organic, etc., is another mindset change that you are not feeding the plant, you are feeding the soil. Right? This is also a very important angle to this. Plant will know how to get the nutrients out. You feed the soil. Focus on that. Single-minded focus on that. Right? So I think, so these are a bunch of things. Of course, if you have the ability to invest, I think one of the things you should think of is perhaps doing a polyhouse or doing a nursery at your farm. Because see, a lot of things go wrong because you got the bad saplings. You did not get the correct saplings. They were not exposed to a correct environment. See, the whole thing starts from day zero where you have selected the right seeds and then you have kept them in a very nice disease-free environment for some time and then you have gone ahead and taken them out when they are slightly stronger, right? That is important. So I think investing in doing a good nursery operation at your farm usually has a good return. Doing some level of polyhouses or greenhouses makes sense from the climate perspective because the climate is changing. That leads to the next thing, which is that anybody who's getting into farming or thinking of organic farming, you should know that climate is going to be a problem. It is going to get worse and worse, right? So your strategy should be like, how do I tackle this? Which means that either one is you should absolutely do multi-cropping, because if you are doing multi-cropping, your chances of massive crop loss and zero income goes away because you are growing multiple different things. Something will survive. Secondly is you need to select climate resilient varieties wherever possible, whenever you are getting your seed saplings and when you are choosing your crops also. What are the things which can, be climate resilient? Sometimes, not always, but sometimes some of these seeds are also native seeds or nati seeds as well. Nati seeds from that particular area might be a little more hardy. Not always true. There are also many hybrid seeds which have been also engineered to become more hardy and things like that. So you have to make that choice as well, that select climate resilient crops, because climate is going to be one of the biggest problems that farmers will face, right? So yeah, so all of that is there. And the final thing which I always tell is that, see, a good entrepreneur is not somebody who does great podcasts and give nice interviews, but who's also very good with he knows his business in and out. He knows all his numbers. He spends a lot of time doing the unglamorous, boring work of looking at my data, planning, etc. So that's the same thing. If you, as a farmer, you want to now become a farming entrepreneur, you need to spend a lot of time in doing some of those things also.
The back-end work.
Really doing record keeping, knowing exactly what happened where, which one was profitable, how much time did my labor spent on preparing the field here. So just sheer record keeping. See, a good business guy has all of his numbers in systems, right? A good business guy is not operating ad hoc. He has a lot of systems. Sometimes he has teams which does that. So as a farmer also, you need to create your own productivity systems, right? Where you know what's going on. So you could do it in paper, you could do it in Excel, right? But I think that is also required.
So you mentioned about polyos. How reliable is polyos? Because like 2 years ago, we usually produce around 300 tons of mangoes. 2 years back, March 16th, it rained for 15 minutes, just 15 minutes, but huge hailstorm. Like complete loss, like zero. At the end of the season, we sold it for 90,000. 300 tons of mangoes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a good solution for that. That is just... So the only thing that I would say is that, you should diversify in your mango orchard, also grow your ginger and turmeric and all of those things as well. That's the only advice which will actually help here. Because otherwise, if hailstorm comes in the unfortunate period where everything is very susceptible to that, there's nothing else you can do, right? So that's why you have to diversify. And even if you have a 40-acre mango orchard and it gives you a good income, etc., you have to prepare yourself saying that sometime, maybe once in 4 or 5 years, it'll go for a toss. Then where do I make my income from? See, one example of this that we see very often, which farmers end up is using border crops in your farms. And especially for organic farmers, see, your farm is surrounded by various different other farms which are chemical farms, etc. You have to create wind barriers or wind breaks, right? So that if they're doing a spray, it does not come in. Secondly is, if you create these wind barriers or wind breaks, then the moisture will be retained. Your water usage will actually be less because a lot of water just evaporates away from your soil because there's a dry wind coming in summer and the moisture is getting taken away, right? So for that, you need to plant those trees. Now, if you plant those trees, plant trees which will also give you some income as well, right? Put in some bananas, put in some subabul, for example, which you can sell to the paper mill after the 3rd year or so. Every year it will come kind of automatically. It produces, if you have goats, etc., there's nice fodder also which it is producing. So I think some of these things we need to do, and it's just like any other business. You can do a business lazily, you are more likely to fail. Sometimes you will succeed even if you are doing a lazy business, but many times you will fail. If you are doing more hard work, doing in more effort, your chances of success increases. Same thing with farming as well. And just like in business also, you put all your eggs into one basket. Sometimes things will not be in your control. And farming, many things are not going to be under your control. So farming, actually, you need to focus a lot more on the risk mitigation versus other things. Because other things, only there will be some things which, maybe there is a new competitor which has come up. Maybe Facebook has changed its algorithm. There are few risks which are there. But farming, the risks are actually much larger, right? And many things you can't do anything about it. So I think risk mitigation strategies is important, which means diversification is usually one of the best risk mitigation strategies.